Hey guys, James here with Waterford Business Solutions. And while we work with a lot of ServiceTitan customers, one of those things that we have to work with customers on is understanding their day-to-day workflow and how they need to operate and utilize ServiceTitan in the first place in order to run it efficiently, to run it in a solid manner, to run it in a efficient manner so that the business isn't having issues, so that they can not have a bunch of errors when porting over to QuickBooks, and so that it's not taking them hours of time to do stuff within ServiceTitan. And a lot of customers, they come from other systems, whether they be a legacy system like Successware or Schaefer's or Field Edge or something like that, or they come from simpler systems like House Call Pro or Jobber or ServiceMate, and they're coming from these systems that function woefully different and or you don't have to have as rigorous of a setup with, and there's ways that you can speed run things, there's ways that you can kind of change up how your workflows are working. ServiceTitan doesn't really work like that. ServiceTitan, while you can skip steps and you can make it work how you want it to and whatever you kind of want to have happen there, there's going to be some limitations on what the program actually allows you to do, and you have to follow a pretty rigorous step-by-step guide throughout the program. So we wanted to take some time. We've done a lot of videos on how ServiceTitan integrates with QuickBooks, but we wanted to take some time on what you need to do to actually run ServiceTitan day to day, so that as either a client of ours or as someone who's just trying to figure out how to work within ServiceTitan, you know kind of this is the step, this is what we need to do, this is what it's going to look like, and go that route with it. Now, if you're struggling with implementing ServiceTitan, if you're struggling with understanding how to use ServiceTitan, if you're struggling with getting ServiceTitan integrated with your QuickBooks, or you're just looking for someone who is there to support you through this and is able to provide you accurate and timely financials off of ServiceTitan, we're happy to help you here at Waterford Business Solutions. We work with a ton of clients that work within the ServiceTitan ecosystem. We get the integration set up. We work with them day in and day out for fully outsourced either support all the way up to fully outsourced CFO services for the clients. If that's something that you think you could use, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by either shooting us an email at info@waterfordbusiness.com, going to our website waterfordbusiness.com and submitting a inquiry form, or simply giving us a call at 864-351-0852. Now, as we get into going through ServiceTitan just on a day-to-day operation, there's really about 7 steps from when a phone call comes in and a customer wants to either schedule or start a job, and when a technician finishes that job out in the field. There's about 7 steps involved here. We're going to go through all of those, but this is kind of the base workflow of what you need to do, and then we're going to go into this kind of ancillary steps in here and why this is important and the purpose of this. So ultimately, if I was to call into you today and say, hey, this is James, I need a technician to come and service my unit, I've got a no heat, or it's not working, or whatever you want, your CSR or your dispatch manager or whatever you decide to call them, they're going to go ahead and go into ServiceTitan, and they're going to go ahead and start with creating a booking. By creating a booking, it's going to go ahead and automatically create a job in ServiceTitan. And the reason we want that booking and or we want that job is everything for the job is going to base off of it. The job is going to be that main record, that starting point. All of your estimates are going to connect to it. All of your invoices are going to connect to it. So at the end of the day, when that job is done, you can see everything related to that specific job. So your CSR is going to book, or if there's an online booking that comes through, they'll go through the dispatch, create a booking, and then it will automatically create a job for you. From there, whether it's the CSR or whether it's your sales rep, we're going to create an estimate for the job. The sales rep or CSR will go in, make notes off of what the customer said. Hey, this is a service call. Or hey, this is a no heat, no cool call. They'll create that estimate by opening the job, selecting create an estimate, and then add your related price book items. If it's a sales rep and they're doing like a new unit install or something, they may want to go ahead and build out options within ServiceTitan and use the good, better, best options within ServiceTitan. Now, you may have pre-set up templates or anything like that, but once the job is created and the call is booked, we really want to create that estimate, because that estimate is going to define the initial scope of work and the initial pricing before anything's done. This goes a lot of ways. A, it's transparency for your customer. B, it allows you to see this is initially what was planned versus this is the end result of what actually happened on this job. Customers really enjoy that transparency, and before you even get started on the job, we go to step 3 and we send this estimate to the customer for approval. So before the technician even goes out, before we even start anything, we send an estimate to the customer and we ask them for an approval. Now, this could be you're creating this estimate on job and your service technician's doing this on the job, and before they even begin work, they go ahead and present the estimate to the customer, or you can go ahead and text the estimate to the customer so that they can virtually approve it. This lets them, again, have that transparency. The customer approves the work within the estimate. They know exactly what that initial cost is going to be. Now, bear in mind, this is not locking you into that initial cost. You want to make sure that your CSR is taking the call, or your service technician doing this estimate, especially if it's just a, hey, I need a service call, my unit's not working. We want to communicate, hey, this is our service call. This is where we're going to start. Once we get out there and we diagnose the situation, we'll go from there. With the customer approving it, this helps with transparency. Again, super important, and it keeps customers happier. And more importantly, it helps with paper trail in the event of any type of dispute, any argument on whether work was done, whether work was approved, because you've got that signed approval from the customer. So before we even begin work, before we even look at anything, before we touch anything, we get the customer to approve the estimate, and then we perform the work on the job. So that then goes into step 4, where we perform the work on the job. In ServiceTitan, the technician's going to look at that approved estimate, if they weren't the ones that created it in the field, to see what needs to be done on the job. Let's stick with this. It's a service call for a no heat, no cool, whatever it is. They're going to go out, look at the machine, run the diagnostics, and figure out what is wrong with the machine and complete what is involved on that initial estimate, whatever line items you have listed out. That way, again, we're doing the work that the customer was aware that we're going to do and that the customer has already agreed to. After we've done that initial survey and after we've done that initial workload, then we'll go ahead and we'll move on to step 5, where we handle any scope changes. If while we're out there we find that the no heat, no cool is due to a bad condenser, or due to a bad fan motor, or due to a rusted out coil, or whatever it may be, we then figure out, okay, this is the issue, this is what we need to do. Now, that issue may be covered by the diagnostic. It depends on what your diagnostic kind of covers. Maybe it just needs to cycle on and off. Maybe you just need to tighten a few screws. That's covered under the initial thing. At that point, we tell the customer, cool, we've got it fixed. This is what we do. Thank you very much. We skip step 5 here and we move to step 6. But if we are ending up having to change our scope of work or change what we're doing in any way, shape, or form, we want to make sure that that scope change is documented. So, under the same job, we're going to create another estimate. And under that second estimate, we're going to add any additional price book items for whatever the new issue is or whatever the diagnostic found. Again, let's stick with the fact it's a bad fan motor. Hey, we're going to go in, create a new estimate, fan motor replacement, make our notes, everything related with that. And that way we can go ahead and go back to the customer and say, hey, James, we looked at your machine. This is what's wrong. We're going to go ahead, or what we need to do to fix it is replace your fan motor. This would be the cost. If you credit your service call to fixing whatever the issue is, we may go ahead and put a discount line item on that estimate to show that credit so that the customer is fully aware of what's going on there. And the technician will explain that new estimate to the customer so that they understand exactly what's kind of going on there before we move on to the next thing. And we get the customer to once again approve the new estimate. We don't do any additional work until we approve the new estimate. This makes sure that, again, transparency, the customer knows everything that we're doing, the customer is aware of all costs involved in what we're going to need to do here, the customer is aware of this is exactly what it's going to take, this is when we can get it done, because you may have a service call scheduled, but you can't get the part until 2 days later, so you're keeping that transparency, that line of communication open. And again, most importantly, there's a workflow, there's documentation, and if there's ever a question of, wait, I didn't approve this, or wait, this wasn't discussed, or this is more money than we talked about, you've got step by step where the customer signed and approved any changes to the scope of work. That way they're always fully cognizant. Now obviously, we don't want to get into here and start with one estimate for a diagnostic, do another estimate for a fan motor, fix that, come back to the customer again and say, oh, that wasn't it, let's do this again. Well, that's not what we're talking about doing here. We should keep it to, especially for like a service call, 2 estimates, because your diagnostic should figure out everything that's wrong so that you can list it all out. Now, if you're doing an install job and the customer agrees to the initial install and then they want to add a new silencing or quiet boot to one of the systems, or they want to add a whole home humidifier, or they want to add a dehumidifier, or they want to add a UV light, or whatever it is, and maybe as you're going through this process they add 5-6 different things, yeah, we'll probably have 5-6 different estimates. Again, so it's documented, and each step of the way we know exactly what they are or aren't agreeing to there. Keep it clean. Once they go ahead and approve that new estimate and the work involved, we'll complete that job. We'll finish off whatever's on that new estimate. We'll finish the job. At this point, the customer is fully aware of what costs are involved, everything going on. In this way, as we are now moving into the steps of integrating with QuickBooks, we've got less of a chance of having to do correcting invoices or modified invoices due to the fact of everything is transparent, everything is clear to the customer, and they know exactly the costs involved. You don't get to the end of a job, push it to QuickBooks, and a customer calls back and it's like, whoa, this is $100 more, $200 more than I thought, because we've been transparent at the beginning. Once we finish the job, we're going to go ahead and mark the job as complete. Moving into step 6 here, we're going to create an invoice from the job. We'll mark the job as complete. We'll select create an invoice. off of the job. It'll pull everything from our estimates. We can review the line items, make sure that they all look good, review the taxes, review the discounts, whatever we need to look at here to make sure that all the approved work, the completed work, is accurate to what's on the estimates, what we've discussed with the customer, and turn that into a bill. That will go ahead, create our invoice that we can send that to the customer, show that to the customer, and that way we can also go ahead and at the end of the day, your CSR, your office manager, whoever's in charge of, can go ahead and batch that completed job and that completed invoice and everything that's good to go there so that it can be exported to QuickBooks. And again, since we've been transparent through this all, there should be less need to change that invoice after it's exported so that we've got less issues with the QuickBooks and ServiceTitan integration. Once that is completed, we'll go ahead and move to step 7 and collect the payment and close out. We'll go ahead and collect the payment for the invoice. Hopefully your service technician is still on the job. They can collect payment on the job. And that way you're not left here with AR or anything like that. You've just already got payment. You're good to go. Get that payment. They can go ahead, collect it on the invoice, post the invoice, and then your CSR back at the shop at the end of the day, or your office manager, can batch both the payment and the invoice so that it can go over to QuickBooks. Now, if they're not on the job, obviously we've got to send this invoice to them so that the customer can pay it later, but that causes a higher chance of not getting paid, so we really want to make sure that we're doing this on the job. Once we collect that payment, that's going to close out the job financially, feeds all the income into the reporting within ServiceTitan, feeds it into your QuickBooks and your accounting system so that you can see the invoices coming through. Once you batch and export it over, you can see the payments going through. You can create those bank deposits in QuickBooks like we've talked about in the past and take care of everything there. And then on the ServiceTitan side, we're closing out that AR, we're recognizing the service, we're recognizing whatever reports you have set up to run, it'll close everything out there, and then we close out that job. There's definitely a good bit of steps here, and I do really strongly suggest that, I can't emphasize that enough, obviously, but strongly suggest that you do follow all 7 of these steps. It helps really protect you as a business from claims. It keeps customers happier because you're transparent, they feel more comfortable with you. It keeps the integration cleaner and simpler because we don't have to make as many adjusting invoices, which just create a bigger mess. It keeps the batching and dispatching and exporting processes cleaner because this is the workflow. Everybody knows the workflow. It keeps it cleaner in the field because the technicians know what they're getting into. The technicians can put out exactly what they're doing. They're collecting all the money in the field. Everything's kind of clean, good to go, etc. there, and it just makes the system run more efficiently at the end of the day. It's going to make your business run better. ServiceTitan is an amazing tool when used correctly, but it's a cumbersome tool when used incorrectly. And while there are more steps here than what you might see in some other systems, at the end of the day, these steps are going to give you that reporting, that information, the integrations and all that information that you want that makes ServiceTitan such an amazing platform. Guys, I hope you found this informational. If you need more videos like this, we try to put out a ServiceTitan video at least once a month. We've got several more planned for this entire year. We've got plenty that are backlinked on our YouTube channel. Please feel free to go and watch them, look at them, get information from them. And go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel here. We put out videos on ServiceTitan, finances, accounting, bookkeeping, business planning, all of those things every single week, every Monday. So I invite you to join us to watch every week just to go ahead and become a better master of your own money. If you found any issues or need any help with this throughout this video, as I said in the beginning, please feel free to reach out to us here at Waterford Business Solutions. Give us a call at 864-351-0852 or shoot us an email at info@waterfordbusiness.com. Until next week, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day.